Commander Li Huan stood at the bridge of the New Sol, watching the massive alien space station grow larger on the main screen. His hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his uniform. Today would change everything for humanity. After 50 years of listening to alien radio signals and preparing for this moment, Earth was finally going to meet its galactic neighbors. The space station was enormous. It looked like a crystal flower blooming in the darkness of space, with dozens of arms reaching out in all directions. Each arm was bigger than Earth's largest cities. Ships of every shape and size moved around it like busy insects. Some were long and thin like silver needles. Others were round like soap bubbles. A few looked like they were made of pure light. "Doctor?" Kim Yuna walked up beside him, carrying a tablet full of data about Earth. She had spent her whole life studying alien cultures through their radio transmissions. Now she would finally meet them face to face. "Are you ready for this, Commander?" she asked. Li Huan nodded. As ready as anyone can be for making first contact with 12 different alien species. Behind them, the rest of the diplomatic team checked their equipment one last time. They had brought gifts from Earth: music, art, literature, and scientific discoveries. They wanted to show the galaxy that humans were more than just another primitive species. The communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in perfect English, though it sounded like it was coming from underwater. "Human vessel New Sol, you are cleared to dock at Bay 17. Proceed slowly and follow the guidance beacons." Captain Park Jin-ho took control of the ship, guiding it carefully through the maze of alien vessels. The New Sol looked tiny compared to the other ships. Most of the alien vessels were at least 10 times larger, with smooth curves and glowing parts that humans could not understand. As they docked, Li Huan felt his heart racing. Everything they had worked for came down to the next few hours. Would the galaxy welcome humanity as equals? Would they share their technology and knowledge? Would Earth finally join the community of advanced civilizations? The airlock opened, with a soft hiss. The air that flowed in smelled strange like ozone and flowers. Li Huan stepped through first, followed by Dr. Kim Yuna and the rest of the team. The docking bay was huge. The ceiling disappeared into darkness high above them. Alien creatures moved around, loading and unloading cargo from various ships. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others floated in the air. A few rolled along the ground like living wheels. Their escort was waiting for them. It looked like a walking crystal sculpture, about 3 meters tall. Its body was made of transparent, blue material that glowed softly from within. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once. "Welcome, humans. I am Guide Senth of the Vorthak people. Follow me to the council chamber." They walked through corridors that seemed to be carved from solid diamond. The walls showed moving pictures of different worlds and species. Li Huan saw oceans of liquid metal, forests of glass trees, and cities floating in clouds of gas. The galaxy was more beautiful and diverse than Earth had ever imagined. The council chamber was a vast spherical room. 12 platforms floated in the air, each one holding representatives from different species. In the center was a smaller platform for visitors. This is where the humans would make their case. Guide Senth led them to the central platform, which rose slowly into the air until they were level with the council members. Li Huan looked around at the assembled aliens. Some were so strange that his mind struggled to understand what he was seeing. The Vorthak Prime Speaker was a massive crystal, being that sparkled with internal light. Next to it floated a Nemuri, looking like a cloud of glowing gas held together by willpower. A Technar representative was half machine and half something that might once have been alive, with cables and wires running through organic-looking tissue. "Humans of Earth," the Prime Speaker said, its voice echoing through the chamber. "You have requested membership in the Galactic Council. State your case." Li Huan stepped forward. He had practiced this speech hundreds of times, but his mouth felt dry. "Honored members of the Council, we come in peace. Humanity has much to offer the galactic community. We have overcome war, poverty, and environmental destruction on our world. We have developed science, art, and philosophy. We seek only friendship and the chance to learn from our neighbors among the stars. Dr. Kim Yuna activated her tablet, and holographic displays appeared in the air around them. Images of Earth's greatest achievements filled the chamber. Medical advances that had eliminated disease. Artworks that captured the beauty of human emotion. Music that made some of the alien representatives sway gently. "We have studied your transmissions for 50 years, Dr. Kim Yuna said. We know that the galaxy values diversity, cooperation, and peaceful progress. These are values that humanity shares." For a moment there was silence in the chamber. Then the Vorthak Prime speaker began to glow more brightly. "We have also studied your species, humans. We have watched your history through your own broadcasts. We have seen your wars, your violence, your destruction of your own planet. We have observed your rapid technological advancement and your tendency toward conflict." Other council members began to speak. Their words were translated into English, but the tone was clear in any language. They were afraid. "Your species advances too quickly," said a being that looked like a tree made of metal. "In 500 years you went from riding animals to splitting atoms. You fight constantly," added a creature that seemed to be made of living water. "Even after achieving spaceflight, you still have conflicts on your homeworld. Your environmental record shows a pattern of consumption and destruction," said another voice. "How can we trust you not to do the same to other worlds?" Dr. Kim Yuna tried to respond. "But we have changed. We have learned from our mistakes. Earth is now united under one government. We have restored our ecosystems. We have eliminated war." Then when Prime Speaker's light dimmed. "Too little, too late. Your species shows all the signs of becoming a threat to galactic stability. The Council has seen species like yours before. They always promise peace, then spread conflict wherever they go." Li Huan felt his heart sinking. This was not going as they had hoped. "What are you saying?" "The decision is unanimous," the Prime Speaker announced. "Humanity is denied membership in the Galactic Council. Furthermore, your species is restricted to your home system. Quantum barriers will be established around Sol to prevent your expansion." "You cannot be serious," Captain Park Jinho said, speaking for the first time. "You are going to imprison an entire species?" "We are protecting the galaxy," the Prime Speaker replied coldly. "Your species has shown itself capable of great destruction. Until you prove otherwise over many centuries, you will remain isolated. The galaxy has no place for humanity." The platform began to descend. The meeting was over. Li Huan looked around desperately at the alien faces, hoping to see some sign of sympathy or doubt, but their decision was final. As they walked back to their ship, Dr. Kim Yuna was crying quietly. 50 years of preparation, 50 years of hope, and they just rejected us. Without even giving us a chance, Captain Park Jinho added bitterly. Back, aboard the New Sol, they received one final transmission as they prepared to leave. It was from the Vorthak Prime Speaker. "Humans, understand that this decision is not made in anger, but in wisdom. The galaxy is ancient and peaceful. Your species is young and violent. Perhaps in 1,000 years, when you have truly changed, we will reconsider. Until then, stay in your cage." The communication ended. Li Huan stared at the screen for a long moment, then turned to his crew. "Set course for Earth," he said quietly. "Let's go home and tell them that we're alone." As the New Sol pulled away from the crystal station, invisible barriers began to form around the edges of the solar system. Humanity's first contact with the galaxy had ended not in friendship, but in imprisonment. They were alone among the stars, with only each other for company. The galaxy had spoken. Earth was not welcome. 14 years had passed since the rejection. Director Cho Min-seo stood in the command center of the Terra Defense Initiative, watching dozens of screens showing humanity's progress. Earth had not sat still since that terrible day when the galaxy shut its doors. If anything, being alone had made humans work harder than ever before. The command center buzzed with activity. Engineers worked on new ship designs. Scientists analyzed alien technology samples they had collected during the brief diplomatic mission. Military officers planned defense strategies for a threat they hoped would never come. Everyone knew that Earth was on its own now. Cho Min-seo was a small woman with sharp eyes and graying hair. She had been chosen to lead humanity's response to isolation because she understood something important. When humans were pushed into a corner, they did not give up. They fought back with everything they had. "Director, we have another successful test of the closed-loop life support system," reported engineer Kim Dae-hyun. "We can now support a crew of 500 for 3 years without any outside resources." Cho Min-seo nodded. That was good news. Since Earth could not trade with other worlds, they had to become completely self-sufficient. Every ship had to carry everything it needed for long missions: food, water, air, fuel, spare parts, and raw materials. It was a challenge that no other species had ever faced, but humans were getting good at it. Across the facility, Dr. Song Junho worked in his laboratory with pieces of alien technology. He had spent years studying the small devices and samples that the diplomatic team had been allowed to examine during their visit to the council station. From these fragments, he was slowly learning how alien science worked. The hyperspace drive. "Theory is sound," he told his assistant, Dr. Park Suman. "We understand how they bend space to travel faster than light. The problem is power. Their drives need enormous amounts of energy that we cannot produce yet." Dr. Park Suman looked at the equations covering the laboratory walls. "What if we do not copy their design exactly? What if we find a different way?" Dr. Song Junho smiled. That was very human thinking. When someone said something was impossible, humans looked for another way to do it. "Show me what you have in mind." Meanwhile, in another part of the facility, Lieutenant Colonel Ryu Hyung sat in a dark room filled with radio equipment. She spent her days listening to alien communications from across the galaxy. It was lonely work, but someone had to monitor what the galaxy was saying about Earth. Most of what she heard was routine: trade negotiations between different worlds, scientific conferences, cultural exchanges. The galaxy seemed to be doing very well without humanity. Some transmissions even made jokes about the caged primitives of Seoul and wondered if humans had learned their lesson yet. But lately, Ryu Hyung had been hearing something else. Older signals, weaker and harder to detect. They sounded like distress calls, but when she tried to trace them, they seemed to come from empty space. The official council communication channels never mentioned these signals. It was as if they did not exist. She made notes of each strange transmission and filed them away. Maybe they meant nothing. Maybe they were just echoes from old battles or natural phenomena. But her instincts told her otherwise. Something was happening in the galaxy that the council did not want to talk about. On the other side of Earth, Captain Na Dong-hyuk was testing humanity's most advanced starship. The Soul's Pride was smaller than most alien vessels, but it was built using human engineering principles. Every system had backup systems. Every part could be repaired or replaced with basic tools. It was not elegant like alien technology, but it was reliable. "Hyperspace drive online," reported his navigator, Lieutenant Bae Minji. "All systems showing green. Take us out," Captain Na Dong-hyuk ordered. The Soul's Pride accelerated away from Earth, its destination the edge of the solar system where the alien barriers waited. They had tried this hundreds of times before, but Dr. Song Junho insisted that his new drive design might work differently. As they approached the barrier, space itself seemed to shimmer like heat waves. The ship's instruments went crazy as they hit the invisible wall. Instead of punching through to hyperspace, the Soul's Pride was gently but firmly pushed back toward Earth. The alien barriers were still there, still working perfectly. "Same result as always," Lieutenant Bae Minji reported with disappointment. Captain Na Dong-hyuk was not discouraged. Every failure taught them something new about how the barriers worked. Someday, they would find a way through. Humans were good at finding ways through walls. Back at the Terra Defense Initiative, Director Cho Min-seo received reports from across Earth. The lunar colonies were expanding, mining rare metals needed for advanced technology. The Mars settlements were becoming self-sufficient in food production. Asteroid mining operations were bringing in resources that Earth had never had before. In space, new ships were being built. Not the massive vessels that other species used. but smaller, tougher ships that could operate independently. Human ship designers had learned from Earth's history of naval warfare. The best ships were the ones that could take damage and keep fighting. Dr. Song Junho burst into her office with excitement. "Director, we may have had a breakthrough. Dr. Park Suman has developed a theoretical model for a new type of hyperspace drive. Instead of using massive amounts of energy to tear a hole in space, it creates many tiny holes that the ship slips through." "Will it work?" Cho Min-seo asked. "We do not know yet, but the theory suggests it might be too small for the alien barriers to detect. Like water finding cracks in a dam." Cho Min-seo felt a spark of hope. "How long until you can test it?" 6 months for a prototype, maybe less if we put all our resources behind it. That evening, Cho Min-seo stood on the observation deck of the orbital command station, looking out at Earth below. The planet was more beautiful than ever. The environmental restoration projects had worked. The oceans were clean again. The forests were growing back. Cities gleamed with clean energy. Isolation had been hard, but it had also been a gift. Humans had been forced to solve all their own problems. They could not rely on alien technology or trade. Everything they needed, they had, to create themselves. It had made them stronger and more independent than any other species in the galaxy. Her communication device beeped. Lieutenant Colonel Ryu Hayoung's voice came through, excited and worried at the same time. "Director, you need to hear this. Just received a very strong distress signal from the Kepler 186 system. It is from the Rilani, the amphibious species that spoke in favor of humanity during our council hearing." Cho Min-seo remembered the Rilani representative. It had been one of the few voices that suggested giving humanity a chance. What are they saying? The transmission is fragmentary, but they mention attacks by something they call the Devourers, entities that consume matter and energy. They are asking for help from anyone who can hear them. And the council? No response on any official channels. It is like they cannot hear the signal, or they are choosing to ignore it. Cho Min-seo felt cold. If the council was ignoring distress calls, what did that say about their claims of galactic peace and cooperation? How many other species might be crying for help while the council remained silent? She looked back at Earth, then up at the stars. Somewhere out there, people were dying while the galaxy turned away. It was exactly the kind of situation that made humans angry. And when humans got angry, they did something about it. "Keep monitoring all frequencies," she told Ryu Hayoung. "I want to know about every distress call, every strange signal, everything the council is not talking about." "Yes, Director. What are we going to do about it?" Cho Min-seo smiled grimly. "We are going to do what humans do best. We are going to find a way to help even if the galaxy does not want us to." The barriers around Earth still held, but for the first time in 14 years, Director Cho Min-seo felt like humanity had a purpose again. The galaxy had locked them away to keep them from causing trouble. But trouble, it seemed, was coming, whether humanity was involved or not. And when it arrived, Earth would be ready. Dr. An Soo-hyun had been listening to the galaxy's voice for 5 years. Her deep space monitoring station orbited far from Earth, hidden in the asteroid belt where its sensitive equipment could work without interference. What she had discovered over those years made her sleep badly at night. She stood before a massive wall of screens, each one showing different parts of the galaxy. Red dots marked systems that had gone quiet. There were too many red dots now. 47 star systems that used to broadcast regular communications had fallen silent over the past 10 years. The Galactic Council never mentioned these disappearances in their public channels. "Computer, show me the pattern analysis," she said. A 3-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared in the air. The red dots were not random. They formed a rough circle around the galactic center, growing larger each year. Whatever was happening was spreading outward from the core of the galaxy toward the rim where younger species lived. Her assistant, Dr. Lee Jae-won, brought her a cup of coffee and looked at the map with worried eyes. "It is getting worse, is it not?" "Much worse," Dr. An Soo-hyun replied. "And the council is pretending it is not happening." As if summoned by her words, the emergency communication system came alive. A signal was breaking through on frequencies reserved for the most desperate situations. The computer automatically began translating the alien language. This is Rilani Prime Command to any vessel that can hear us. Our system is under attack by unknown entities. They consume everything. Our ships, our stations, even our planets are being stripped of all matter and energy. We cannot stop them. Please, if anyone receives this transmission, warn others. Do not come here, save yourselves. Dr. Ansuyan felt her heart racing. The Rilani were the peaceful amphibious people who had spoken for humanity at the council hearing years ago. They lived in the Kepler 186 system, only 40 light-years from Earth. Record everything, she told Dr. Lee Jae-won. I need to contact Director Cho immediately. Within hours, the Terra Defense Initiative was buzzing with activity. Director Cho Min-seo called an emergency meeting with Earth's top military and scientific leaders. The recording of the Rilani distress call played over and over in the conference room. Captain Na Dong-yuk leaned forward in his chair. We have to help them. How? Asked General Im Won-shik. We cannot even get past the barriers around our own system. Dr. Song Junho had been working frantically since hearing the news. I think we can do it. The prototype micro-wormhole drive is almost ready. It creates holes so small that the barriers might not detect them. Might not? General Im Won-shik did not like uncertain plans. It is our only chance, Captain Na Dong-yuk said. If we wait for certainty, the Rilani will be dead. Director Cho Min-seo made the decision that would change everything. Prepare the Soul's Pride for immediate departure. Captain Na, you will take a small crew and attempt to reach the Kepler 186 system. Your mission is reconnaissance only. Do not engage any hostile forces. Understood, Director. 2 days later, the Soul's Pride hung at the edge of the solar system, near the invisible barriers. The ship had been modified with Dr. Song Junho's experimental drive. Instead of one large hyperspace engine, it now had dozens of tiny ones spread across the hull. Each one would create a micro-wormhole barely large enough for a few atoms to pass through. Together, they might allow the whole ship to slip between dimensions. Captain Na Dong-yuk sat in the command chair, surrounded by his hand-picked crew. Lieutenant Bae Minji operated the navigation systems. Engineer Kwon Soo-han monitored the experimental drive. Communications Officer Yang Hyuna kept watch for any signals from their destination. All systems ready, Captain, Lieutenant Bae Minji reported. Initiate micro-wormhole sequence. The ship began to vibrate as hundreds of tiny engines came online. On the main screen, space seemed to fracture like broken glass. The Soul's Pride did not punch through the barriers like a hammer. Instead, it slipped through like water finding cracks in stone. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space twisted around them and suddenly they were elsewhere. Hyperspace transition complete, Lieutenant Bae Minji announced with amazement. We are through the barriers. Set course for Kepler 186, maximum speed. The journey took 3 days. As they approached the Rilani system, the crew fell silent. Something was terribly wrong. The system's star, usually a bright yellow sun, was dim and flickering. The planets that should have been blue-green with Rilani oceans were gray and lifeless. Scanning for any signs of civilization, Engineer Kwon Soo-han reported. His voice was quiet. I am not detecting any artificial structures. No cities, no space stations, no ships. That is impossible, Communications Officer Yang Hyuna said. The Rilani had billions of people living here. They had orbital habitats and underwater cities. Captain Na Dong-yuk stared at the dead system. Take us closer to the inner planets. As they moved deeper into the system, they began to see what had happened. Massive geometric structures orbited the dying star. They looked like crystalline spiders with legs that reached out for thousands of kilometers. Each leg ended in some kind of collection device that was pulling matter and energy directly from the star itself. Captain, Engineer Kwon Soo-han's voice, was shaking. Those structures are not just consuming matter, they are consuming information. The quantum signatures of everything that existed here are being erased. It is like the Rilani civilization never existed. One of the geometric structures began to move toward them. Captain Na Dong-yuk had seen enough. All stop. Prepare for immediate hyperspace jump back to Earth. Captain, we should gather more data, Communications Officer Yang Hyona suggested. No. We report what we have seen and let others decide what to do about it. These things consumed an entire star system. Our little ship would not even slow them. Down. The Soul's Pride jumped back into hyperspace, leaving the dead Kepler 186 system behind. But the crew carried the horror of what they had witnessed. An entire civilization had been erased so completely that it was as if they had never existed. Back on Earth, Captain Na Dong-hyuk stood before the Emergency Council and gave his report. The room was completely silent as he described the geometric entities in the lifeless worlds. How many? Director Cho Min-seo asked quietly. Unknown. We saw at least a dozen of the large structures, but there could be more. They seem to be feeding on the star itself. Dr. An Soo-hyun presented her analysis of the galactic communication patterns. Based on the systems that have gone silent, I estimate that at least 50 civilizations have been destroyed in the past decade. The pattern suggests these entities are moving outward from the galactic core. And the Galactic Council? General Im Won-shik asked. They are retreating toward the most heavily fortified core systems. They are abandoning the younger species on the galactic rim. Director Cho Min-seo looked around the room at Earth's leaders. So we know the truth now. The galaxy is under attack by something that consumes entire civilizations. The Council is hiding in their core systems and letting everyone else die, and we are still trapped behind barriers that were supposed to protect them from us. What do we do? Asked Dr. Song Junho. Captain Na Dong-hyuk stood up. We do what humans have always done when people needed help. We find a way to break down the barriers and fight. Even though the galaxy rejected us? General Im Won-shik asked. Especially because the galaxy rejected us, Director Cho Min-seo said with determination. They thought we were too dangerous to join their peaceful civilization. Maybe it is time to show them what human danger can do when it is pointed at the right target. For the first time since the rejection 20 years ago, humanity had a clear purpose. The galaxy was dying while its leaders hid behind walls. But humans had never been good at accepting walls. They were much better at tearing them down. The Soul's Pride had proven that the barriers could be broken. Now it was time to break them properly and show the galaxy what humanity could do when people needed saving. The entities that had destroyed the Rilani were about to learn why the Galactic Council had been so afraid of letting humans loose among the stars. Colonel Ji Yeonwoo had built her career on finding secrets that people wanted to hide. As head of Earth's Intelligence Analysis Division, she spent her days putting together pieces of information that others missed. The data Captain Na Dong-hyuk brought back from the dead Rilani system was just the beginning of a much larger puzzle. She stood in her secure office deep underground, surrounded by holographic displays showing everything humanity had learned about the galaxy. Communication intercepts, stolen technical manuals, and reconnaissance data from a dozen secret missions painted a picture that made her angry. Show me the barrier analysis, she told the computer. A three-dimensional model appeared, showing the quantum barriers around Earth's solar system. Red lines indicated where the barriers were strongest. Blue lines showed the power sources that maintained them. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The barriers are not just keeping us in, she said to her assistant, Major Park Youngman. They are designed to keep something else out. The Council has been using Earth as a shield. Major Park Youngman studied the data with growing understanding. They put the barriers around Sol because our system is between the galactic core and their most important colonies. If these devourer entities spread outward, they would hit us first. Exactly. We are not prisoners. We are expendable guards. Posted at the gate. Across the facility, Dr. Kang Minji was making her own disturbing discoveries. As Earth's leading expert on exotic matter and energy systems, she had been studying the fragmentary data about the devourer entities. What she found changed everything. Director, you need to see this, she said, bursting into Director Cho Min-seo's office with her tablet full of calculations. I have been analyzing how the devourers consume matter and energy. They are not invaders from another galaxy. Director Cho Min-seo looked up from her own reports. What do you mean? They are parasites that have been dormant in our galaxy's core for millions of years. The energy signatures match theoretical models for entities that feed on the output of advanced civilizations. As the galaxy became more developed, with more energy networks and hyperspace traffic, they woke up. Are you saying that galactic civilization itself caused this? Dr. Kang Minji nodded grimly. The Council created a galaxy-wide network of hyperspace, routes, energy distribution systems, and communication networks. It was like ringing a dinner bell for these things. They follow the networks from system to system, consuming everything connected to them. That explains why the Council is retreating to core systems, Director Cho Min-seo realized. They can cut the network connections and hope the devourers will not find them. But it also means they are abandoning everyone else. All the younger species, all the rim colonies, everyone who depends on the network for trade and communication. They are cutting them loose to save themselves. Director Cho Min-seo felt sick. The galaxy's leaders were not just hiding from the threat. They were actively sacrificing entire civilizations to protect themselves. In another part of the facility, Dr. Song Junho was discovering why humanity might be uniquely suited to fight this enemy. His analysis of Earth's technology compared to standard galactic designs showed fundamental differences in approach. "We build everything wrong," he told his research team with a smile. "At least, wrong by galactic standards." Dr. Park Suman looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Look at our ships compared to alien designs. Their vessels are elegant, efficient, and completely dependent on stable hyperspace networks for navigation, communication, and power. Our ships are crude, wasteful, and designed to operate independently." "That is because we were forced to build everything ourselves," engineer Kim Dae-hyun pointed out. "Exactly. And that independence makes us immune to the Devourer's primary attack method. They drain energy from networked systems and consume stable hyperspace fields. Our technology does not work that way." Dr. Song Junho brought up images of human weapons compared to alien ones. Their weapons use refined energy fields that can be disrupted or consumed. Our weapons are kinetic railguns, chemical explosives, and nuclear warheads. Simple, direct, and impossible for the Devourers to drain. The implications hit Dr. Park Suman immediately. "We are the only ones who can fight them effectively. Not just fight them, beat them. While they are draining power from elegant alien systems, we can hit them with weapons that do not depend on anything they can consume." This information reached President Yoon Jae-soo within hours. She called an emergency session of the United Earth Assembly, bringing together representatives from every nation and colony. The assembly hall was packed as she presented the intelligence reports. "Members of the assembly, we face a choice that will define humanity's future. We have learned that our galaxy is under attack by entities that consume entire civilizations. The Galactic Council, which rejected us and imprisoned us behind barriers, is now hiding while innocent people die." She activated the holographic displays, showing the expanding circle of dead systems. 50 civilizations have been destroyed. Billions of people have been erased so completely that they might never have existed. And the entities responsible are moving toward the galactic rim, where younger species have no protection. Representative Lee Kang-hyun from the Mars colonies stood up. "What does this have to do with us? The galaxy rejected humanity. Why should we risk our lives for people who wanted nothing to do with us?" President Yoon Jae-soo had expected this question. "Because we are the only ones who can help. Our technology, developed in isolation, is uniquely effective against these entities. Our weapons and systems cannot be drained or consumed like standard galactic technology. You are asking us to break free from the barriers that have protected us for 20 years, Representative Chen Mi-young from Luna Base pointed out. "If we leave Sol, we could all die. If we stay in Sol, we are guaranteed to die eventually," President Yoon Jae-soo replied. "The Devourers are moving outward. When they finish with the Rim species, they will come for us. The barriers might slow them down, but they will not stop them forever." The debate continued for hours. Some representatives argued for staying safely, behind the barriers. Others demanded immediate action to help the dying civilizations. In the end, President Yoon Jae-soo called for a vote. "All those in favor of Operation Breakthrough, authorizing our military to break the quantum barriers and engage the devourer entities in defense of innocent galactic civilians. Please indicate. The vote was not even close. Humanity had spent 20 years being told they were too dangerous for galactic civilization. Now they would prove that sometimes the galaxy needed dangerous people. Representative Kim Sung-ho from Earth's Asian Federation stood up after the vote. Madam President, I have one question. When we break free and start fighting these entities, what message do we send to the Galactic Council? President Yoon Jae-soo smiled coldly. We tell them that humanity does not need their permission to do what is right. We tell them that they can hide in their core systems if they want, but we will not abandon people who need help, even though they abandoned us. Especially because they abandoned us. We know what it feels like to be left alone when you need help. We will not do that to others. As the assembly session ended, President Yoon Jae-soo looked out at the representatives of humanity. They came from different nations, different colonies, different backgrounds, but they were united in their determination to help people who could not help themselves. The galaxy had rejected humanity because they were too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous. The Galactic Council had been right about one thing. Humans were dangerous. But they had been wrong about what that danger would be used for. In the military command centers, Admiral Shin Kyung-ho began planning Operation Breakthrough. It would be the largest military operation in human history. They would shatter the barriers that had held them prisoner for 20 years. They would take the fight to an enemy that had never faced anything like human stubbornness and ingenuity. 30. Galaxy was about to learn why the Galactic Council had been so afraid of letting humans out of their cage. And the entities that called themselves devourers were about to discover that some prey fought back harder than they ever expected. Earth was going to war. Not for conquest or territory, but for the simple principle that nobody should die alone, and afraid while others who could help chose to look away. It was the most human reason for fighting that anyone could imagine. Admiral Shin Kyung-ho stood on the bridge of the battleship Incheon, watching humanity's greatest fleet prepare for Operation Breakthrough. 50 ships hung in space near the edge of the solar system, their crews ready to shatter the barriers that had held Earth prisoner for 20 years. These were not the elegant vessels that other species built. Human ships were built like fortresses, with thick armor and redundant systems. They looked brutal and functional because they had been designed by people who expected to fight alone against overwhelming odds. All ships report ready, Admiral, announced Communications Officer Han Ji-woo. Admiral Shin Kyung-ho nodded. He had spent months planning this operation. They would not just break through the barriers. They would destroy them completely, making sure that Earth could never be caged again. Begin Phase 1. Target the primary barrier generators. Across the fleet, weapon systems came online. Humanity had learned much about the barriers over 20 years of study. The quantum fields that held them prisoner were maintained by exotic matter projectors hidden in subspace. Destroy the projectors and the barriers would collapse. The heavy cruiser Seoul's Pride fired first, its railguns launching projectiles at near light speed. The projectiles carried specialized warheads designed to disrupt exotic matter fields. When they hit their targets, space itself seemed to crack like breaking glass. Captain Bae Tae-hyung commanded the attack from his ship, the destroyer Gwangju. Direct hit on Generator Complex 7, barrier strength dropping in Section 4. Keep firing, Admiral Shin Kyung-ho ordered. I want every generator destroyed. The battle was unlike anything in galactic history. Most species fought with energy, weapons that could be deflected or absorbed. Humans used simple kinetic weapons that hit their targets with pure physical force. The barrier generators, designed to stop sophisticated energy attacks, were helpless against chunks of metal moving at tremendous speeds. One by one, the exotic matter projectors died. Each destruction sent ripples through the quantum fields that surrounded Earth. After 20 years of perfect stability, the barriers began to fluctuate and weaken. Admiral, we are detecting massive energy buildup, reported Science Officer Dr. Lim Hyunwoo. The barrier collapse is creating a feedback loop. Will it damage our ships? Unknown, sir. This has never been attempted before. Admiral Shin Kyung-ho made the decision that defined humanity's return to the galaxy. All ships move to minimum safe distance and continue firing. We finish this now. The final barrier generator exploded in a burst of exotic energy that lit up the entire solar system. The quantum barriers that had held Earth prisoner dissolved like morning mist. For the first time in 20 years, there was nothing between humanity and the stars. But the victory came at a cost. The energy release destroyed 3 human ships and damaged a dozen more. Captain Park Yun-woo watched his frigate Daegu break apart around him as exotic matter storms tore through its hull. All hands, abandon ship, he ordered calmly, even as the deck tilted beneath his feet. The crew evacuated to escape pods while their captain stayed behind to make sure everyone got out safely. Captain Park Yun-woo was rescued by the cruiser Busan, but 47 crew members from the 3 destroyed ships were lost in the barrier collapse. They were the first human casualties in the war to save the galaxy. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council, Communications Officer Han Ji-woo reported. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers was the same Vorthak Prime speaker who had condemned humanity 20 years earlier. But now it sounded worried instead of confident. Human fleet, cease your aggressive actions immediately. You are violating Council law by destroying the containment barriers. Return to Earth and restore the protective fields. Admiral Shin Kyung-ho smiled grimly. Vorthak Prime speaker, this is Admiral Shin Kyung-ho of the Terran Defense Force. We are no longer your prisoners. The barriers are gone, and they will not be rebuilt. You do not understand. The barriers were for your own protection. There are dangers in the galaxy that your species cannot handle. You mean the devourer entities that you have been hiding from while they destroy entire civilizations? We know about them. Unlike you, we intend to do something about it. There was a long pause before the Prime Speaker responded. Your species is too primitive to fight such beings. You will only die uselessly. Maybe. But at least we will die trying to help people instead of hiding in our core systems while others suffer. The communication ended. Admiral Shin Kyung-ho turned to his fleet commanders. Set course for the Altair system. Intelligence reports indicate the Zephyrians are under attack there. We have a war to fight. The human fleet jumped into hyperspace, leaving the ruins of the barrier generators behind. Earth was free, and humanity was going to war against an enemy that had never faced anything like them. The Altair system was in chaos when they arrived. The Zephyrians were a young crystalline species who had achieved spaceflight only a few centuries earlier. Their beautiful crystal ships were no match for the geometric horrors that had invaded their system. Captain Bae Tae-hyung brought his battle group out of hyperspace near Altair Prime, the Zephyrian homeworld. What he saw made him angry. 3 devourer entities, each the size of a small moon, were stripping matter from the planet's surface. The blue-green world was turning gray as its atmosphere and oceans were consumed. All ships, battle formation, target the nearest entity. The Zephyrian defense fleet was down to a handful of ships. Their energy weapons barely scratched the devourers, and their elegant vessels were being drained of power whenever they got too close. Captain Kristek, the Zephyrian commander, sent a desperate message to the human fleet. Unknown vessels, retreat, while you still can. These beings cannot be fought with conventional weapons. They consume everything they touch. Zephyrian commander, this is Captain Bae Tae-hyung of the Terran Defense Force. We are here to help. Pull your ships back and let us show you how humans fight. The Soul's Pride led the attack, its railguns firing depleted uranium rounds at the nearest devourer entity. The geometric creature was used to draining energy from its enemy's weapons. It was not prepared for simple chunks of metal hitting it at tremendous speed. The first salvo punched holes through the entity's crystalline structure. Dark fluid leaked out, and the creature made a sound like breaking glass. For the first time, in millions of years, a devourer had been hurt. Target damaged, reported Weapons Officer Yu Jiwan. Continuing attack. The human fleet spread out, using tactics developed for fighting other humans. They did not rely on energy shields or exotic weapons. They used kinetic barriers and nuclear warheads. They fought like pirates and mercenaries instead of noble galactic warriors. The Devourers tried to drain power from the human ships, but found nothing they could consume. Human fusion reactors were too crude and chaotic for their feeding mechanisms. Human weapons were too simple and direct for their disruption fields. When the second Devourer entity moved to attack the battleship Incheon, Captain Lee Sulky was ready for it. Her ship carried humanity's most powerful weapon, a mass driver that could launch projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. "Fire," she ordered. The projectile hit the Devourer entity dead center, punching completely through its geometric form. The creature broke apart like a shattered crystal sculpture, its pieces dissolving into exotic matter that dissipated harmlessly into space. The remaining Devourer entities retreated deeper into the system, apparently reconsidering their assumption that this would be an easy conquest. They had consumed dozens of civilizations, but none of them had fought back like this. Captain Christek's voice came over the communications system, filled with something that sounded like singing. "Human warriors, our people will remember this day for all time. You have saved our world when no one else would help." Admiral Shin Kyung-ho watched the crystal beings celebrate on their homeworld's surface. Their cities were damaged but not destroyed. Their civilization would survive. "Admiral, we are receiving distress signals from 17 other systems," Communications Officer Han Ji-woo reported. "Multiple species requesting assistance against Devourer attacks." "And the Galactic Council?" "No response from any council frequencies. It appears they have retreated to the Galactic Core and are maintaining communication silence." Admiral Shin Kyung-ho looked at his fleet. They had proven that humans could fight the Devourers, but there were dozens of systems under attack. Earth's 50 ships could not be everywhere at once. "Send a message to all human colonies and settlements. Emergency mobilization is authorized. Every ship, every weapon, every person who can fight. The galaxy needs us, and we will not let them down." As the human fleet prepared to jump to the next system under attack, Admiral Shin Kyung-ho reflected on how much had changed. 20 years ago, the galaxy had rejected humanity as too dangerous for civilized society. Now they were the only ones standing between civilization and extinction. The barriers were broken, Earth was free, and humanity was about to show the galaxy what they could do when people needed saving. The Devourers had made one critical mistake. They had assumed that all galactic species would be as civilized and predictable as the ones they had consumed before. They had never faced humans, who fought like cornered animals and refused to give. 3 years had passed since humanity broke free from their barriers. Admiral Oh Ju-won stood on the bridge of the flagship Sejong, watching her mixed crew work together to coordinate the defense of the Outer Rim. Humans worked alongside Zephyrians, Raylani survivors, and representatives from dozens of other species that had been abandoned by the Galactic Council. The bridge was a symbol of how much had changed. Lieutenant Commander Vethka, a crystalline Zephyrian, operated the navigation systems with her musical voice commands. Chief Engineer Glubneth, one of the few surviving Raylani, maintained the ship's hybrid human-alien technology. Communications. Officer Han Mirai worked with delegates from 12 different species to coordinate rescue operations across the galaxy. "Admiral, we have a priority distress signal from the Vega system," Han Mirai reported. "The Etherians are requesting immediate assistance. 3 Devourer entities have entered their system." Admiral Oh Ju-won nodded. The Etherians were a peaceful energy-based species that lived in the atmospheres of gas giant planets. Their entire civilization was vulnerable to the Devourers' energy-draining attacks. "Signal Battle Group 7 to respond." Captain Lee Sulky should be able to handle 3 entities with her current force. "Already done, Admiral. The Busan and her escorts are jumping to Vega now." This was how the Rim Defense Alliance operated. Humanity had not tried to recreate the centralized authority of the Galactic Council. Instead, they built a network of independent commanders who could respond quickly to threats wherever they appeared. In her laboratory deep within the ship, Dr. Im Young-woo was putting the finishing touches on humanity's greatest weapon against the Devourers. After 3 years of studying destroyed entity fragments, she had finally understood how they functioned. "The quantum disruption array is ready for testing," she announced to her research team. "If my calculations are correct, this weapon will not just destroy Devourer entities, It will prevent them from reconstructing themselves. Her assistant, Dr. Ko Jinsu, looked at the weapon schematics with excitement. How does it work? The Devourers exist partially outside normal space-time. When we destroy their physical forms, they can rebuild themselves by drawing matter and energy from alternate dimensions. This weapon disrupts their quantum signatures permanently, cutting off their access to those dimensions. It was elegant science built from humanity's crude engineering principles. Other species created weapons that were beautiful and efficient. Humans created weapons that worked no matter how ugly they had to be. Meanwhile, in the Vega system, Captain Lee Sulky was demonstrating why the Devourers had learned to fear human tactics. Her battle group dropped out of hyperspace not in the elegant formations that galactic military doctrine recommended, but scattered randomly throughout the system. All ships begin harassment pattern Delta, she ordered. Do not let them focus their attacks on any single target. The 3 Devourer entities had been systematically consuming the Etherian gas giant colonies. They were massive geometric forms that phased in and out of normal space, draining energy from everything they touched. Against most galactic species, they were nearly invincible. But humans did not fight like most galactic species. Captain Lee Sulky's ships attacked from multiple directions at once, using kinetic weapons that the entities could not drain. When the Devourers tried to phase out of normal space to avoid damage, the humans followed them with quantum torpedoes that exploded in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The battle was chaotic and brutal. Human ships took damage that would have destroyed more elegant alien vessels, but kept fighting with backup systems and emergency repairs. The destroyer Mokpo lost its main engines, but continued the attack using maneuvering thrusters and sheer determination. Direct hit on Entity 2, reported Weapons Officer Park Sung-jin from the cruiser Daejeon. It is breaking apart. But Captain Lee Sulky had learned not to celebrate too early. Maintain fire until complete molecular dispersal. These things can rebuild themselves if we leave any significant fragments. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 3 Devourer entities had been completely destroyed and the Etherian colonies were safe. The energy beings sang gratitude in harmonics that made the human crews weep with emotion. Back at the Galactic Council's core systems, the Vorthak Prime Speaker was meeting with representatives from the 12 founding species. The magnificent, crystal chambers that had once hosted peaceful debates now echoed with fear and desperation. The humans have established a rival authority, reported the Nimari delegate, its gaseous form flickering with agitation. They call it the Rim Defense Alliance. Over 40 species have joined them. Primitive species, the Technar representative said with electronic contempt. They will fail when faced with a truly massive Devourer incursion. The Vorthak Prime Speaker was less certain. The humans have destroyed over 200 individual entities in the past 3 years. They have saved 17 civilizations that we considered lost. Perhaps we underestimated them. They are reckless and violent, the tree-like Silvani delegate insisted. Their tactics are crude and wasteful. They win through brute force, not through superior strategy. And yet they win, the Prime Speaker observed. While we debate in safety, they fight and die to protect people who are not even their own species. The debate was interrupted by an urgent message from the Council's deep space monitoring stations. A Devourer swarm of unprecedented size had been detected moving toward the galactic rim. Over 50 entities, more than had ever been seen together, were heading directly for Earth and its allied systems. Now we will see how effective human brutality really is, the Technar representative said with satisfaction. The message reached Earth within hours. President Yoon Jisoo, now in her 70s but still sharp as a blade, called an emergency meeting of the Rim Defense Alliance. The holographic conference included representatives from 43 different species, all looking to humanity for leadership. How many entities are we talking about? Asked Captain Christek of the Zephyrian Defense Force. 53 confirmed, possibly more, Admiral Ojuon replied. Our intelligence suggests they are being directed by something we have never seen before, a central entity that coordinates their attacks. Chief Engineer Glubneth, speaking for the Rilani survivors, made the question that everyone was thinking. Can we win against so many? President Yoon Jisoo looked around the conference at the faces of species that had been abandoned by their former leaders. Some were humanoid, others were so alien that human minds struggled to understand them, but all of them were looking to Earth for hope. I do not know if we can win, she said honestly, but I know that we will try. Humans have a saying, it is better to die on your feet than live on your knees. We will not abandon you now. The Alliance voted unanimously to make their stand at Earth. Every available ship from 43 different species began converging on the Sol system. The irony was not lost on anyone. The system that had once been humanity's prison was now the galaxy's last hope. Admiral Li Huan, now ancient but still commanding respect, took charge of the defense preparations. The same man who had been rejected by the Galactic Council decades ago was now coordinating the largest military operation in galactic history. Deploy the quantum disruption arrays around the outer planets, he ordered. Dr. Im Youngwoo's weapons had been mass-produced and distributed throughout the fleet. If we are going to make our stand here, we make it count. The Devourer swarm arrived 3 days later. 53 geometric entities, each larger than Earth's moon, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. At their center was something that made even veteran human commanders pause in fear. The master entity was a geometric form so complex that looking at it hurt. It existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, its crystalline structure shifting between states of matter that should not have been possible. When it spoke, reality itself seemed to vibrate. Species of this system, you have interfered with the natural order. We are the devourers. We consume. You resist. This ends now. Admiral Li Huan, standing on the bridge of the battleship Seoul, looked at the enemy force that outnumbered his fleet 10-1. Around him, humans worked alongside aliens who had once been strangers, all united by the simple belief that some fights were worth having, even when you could not win. All ships, this is Admiral Li Huan. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the principle that no one should die alone while others who can help choose to look away. The galaxy gave up on these people. We will not. The battle began with the largest coordinated salvo in human military history. 300 ships fired simultaneously, their kinetic weapons creating a wall of destruction that met the Devourer advance. The smaller entities at the front of the swarm were destroyed instantly, their geometric forms shattered by simple chunks of metal moving at tremendous speeds. But the master entity absorbed the fragments of its destroyed servants, growing larger and more complex. It began to phase through dimensions, appearing and disappearing as it approached the inner system. It is learning, Dr. Im Youngwoo reported from the flagship's science station. Every entity we destroy makes it stronger. Captain Bae Tae-hyung, now commanding the heavy cruiser Incheon, made a decision that would